Alright. Let me get y'all right. Scary story time, chat. Are you ready? Let's get it.
Arizona.
Come on, let's see what you're talking about. Should I turn the light off, chat?
I
Should I
once
turn the
met
light
this
off?
dude named Matt
Yeah, I'm
when I
turning
was
the light
out
off.
with friends at a bar one summer. I was out with a big group, and Matt and I made friends at the bar, vibing over the Cubs game that was on. My group kind of dispersed away from me as I spoke with Matt, so it wasn't like Matt really spoke to any of my friends. We ended up exchanging Instagrams, and he had a decent amount of followers on Instagram, and his pictures made him seem like a normal 20-something-year-old dude who likes to go out, travel, and stay active. After we exchanged info, I went to go find my group. Honestly, whenever you bro out with another guy while you're at a bar, the odds of ever actually contacting each other again after exchanging info are slim to none. You always act
Excuse
like you'll
me.
hit them up, but come the next day when you're sober, you just have no interest. Well, the next day, which was a Saturday, I went out to another bar/restaurant with my friends. This was an outdoor spot on the water. It was for my friend Tyler's birthday. I put something on my Instagram story as we all sang at the bar for him. After about an hour, we were done with dinner and just hanging around the outside section of the bar when I got a tap on my shoulder. I turned around and it was Matt.
First red flag, cause hey, fo, how the fuck you know where I'm at, gang? And don't just be walking up on me like that, gang. I don't know you like that, gang. Fuck is you doing, bro? You know what I'm saying? Fuck no.
He dabbed me up with a smile and said this was his favorite Saturday night spot. I
Oh, it's your
introduced Matt
favorite.
more officially
It's your favorite. Coincidentally, it's your favorite. Yeah, alright, buddy.
to my friends this time, saying, "You guys remember Matt?" Even if they hadn't really spoken to him, they did see him the night before. Well, as the night went on, Matt kind of hung around for a while, and it was fine because everyone was drunk, including him, and everyone was just having a good time. The next time I saw Matt was when he invited me golfing on a hot day. Honestly, I suck at golfing, but it's something I want to get better at, so when he invited me early one Sunday morning, I went. I think it was literally the following weekend after I saw him last. It was just him and I going. I tried to get a couple of my friends to go, but they were too hungover and said it was too early. Matt and I just vibed,
Damn, nigga, all y'all do is drink or something. Y'all niggas always hungover. Like, what the fuck?
playing golf. I think it was only 9 holes. It took us like 2 hours. Afterwards, we got food, and then I went home to relax before work the next day. I saw Matt one more time out after that, before he invited me on a hiking trip with him to Arizona. Honestly, Arizona and the Grand Canyon were always on my bucket list. I just checked the dates with work and confirmed I was able to go first, and I was an immediate yes. I asked Tyler and a couple of other friends to come with, but they were heavy no's. They said they couldn't get the time off work and needed to save money, the typical responses from any of my friends when I try to get them on a trip. I asked Matt if any of his boys were going, and he said nah, he was going solo dolo. I actually hadn't met any of Matt's friends yet. His Instagram painted him as this super popular guy though, so I didn't find it weird. We flew out on August 15th, and our return flights to Chicago were August 18th. We landed at night. Matt rented a car for the weekends, and on the way to the Airbnb, we stopped for food and alcohol. By the time we got to the Airbnb, it was late.
Type shit.
We had a couple of beers when we got there, and I could tell that Matt was down to stay up longer, but I was admittedly shot and wanted to go to sleep. This was when I realized there was only one bed in the Airbnb. I had never
Gang, it's supposed to be two beds, bro. What the fuck is this shit, gang? Fucking me is one bed. I got the flow. It's cool.
asked him to confirm that there were 2 bedrooms. When I brought it up, he pointed to the couch I was sitting on and said it's a pull-out couch. He then said
Even better.
relax and that he's not going to charge me for the Airbnb. Honestly, a free stay in Arizona, I couldn't complain about the couch. I pulled out the sofa bed, set up the sheets, and went to sleep. It was surprisingly comfortable.
If you get stuck on a melody, or if you just feel like you can't get a song started, Output's co-producer.
In the middle of the night, I woke up to Matt walking through the living room to the kitchen to get water. I'm a light sleeper. The sound of a pin drop will make me wake up. I rolled over and went back to sleep. The next morning, Matt woke me up early. It was a sunny, gorgeous day, and we drove straight to the Grand Canyon. I had no idea just how massive it truly was, or how many individual trail options there were. We hiked the Bright Angel, I think. I didn't realize how out of shape I was until that day. Matt was perfectly fine, laughing and telling me to keep up while I was dripping in sweat and out of breath. We took numerous breaks, which we...
All that drinking and going out to clubbing, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna catch up to you, gang. Come on, lock in.
used to take a million amazing pictures. It was beautiful. Eventually, we got back to the car. We had been hiking for over 2 to 3 hours, and I needed food. We stopped by a deli on the way back. It was a long drive back to Phoenix, and when we got there, we took a midday nap, and then after that, we explored around Phoenix. And of course, in Matt fashion, we drank at multiple bars. I barely knew the guy, but I could already see he liked his alcohol. Fast forward, we got really, really drunk, but I think I got drunker, and I'm not sure how, because Matt was downing as many drinks as me. We had to leave the rental on the street and Uber back to the Airbnb. It was late. Time flew by somehow. I don't remember much besides Matt blasting music in the Airbnb for a bit and my plugging my phone in next to the couch. I guess I just went to sleep after that. That night, I woke up randomly, probably a couple of hours after I fell asleep. My bladder was about to explode and my mouth was drier than the Grand Canyon. I got off the couch and headed toward the bathroom, but I heard something. A crack in the floor, like a crack from pressure. I scanned around the dark room with my eyes and saw nothing, so I went to the bathroom. While I was in there, midstream, I heard a door clicking shut. It had to be Matt's bedroom door. When I finished peeing, I went to try Matt's door, but it was locked. I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Whatever, I went back to the couch and fell back asleep pretty easily. The next morning, I woke up at like 8 a.m., head throbbing. The first thing I noticed was my phone. It was in a weird position. I had it charging last night and left it laying on the floor next to the couch bed, but now it was sitting on the table next to the couch and it was unplugged. I was questioning why I might have done this, but ultimately my answer was simple. I was just super drunk. That day, we obviously didn't do any hiking, otherwise I would have puked.
Hey man, look, you don't be that drunk realistically, gang. You know what I'm saying? If your gut telling you something, trust your goddamn gut, bruh. You feel me? I bet.
We just Ubered to the car and then did some driving around, exploring different neighborhoods, scenery, and checking out the botanical gardens. I didn't really want to drink that day, but later on, Matt convinced me. And wouldn't you know it, it was another night of getting really, really drunk.
See, that's y'all fucking problem. It's been every night. I didn't, bro. 6 minutes in, gang, in the story, gang. I done heard you drinking every night. Is y'all cool? Is y'all good? You know what I'm saying? Maybe that's why you waking up with all them fucking headaches. You know what I'm saying? Drinking more liquor than water, gang, and you think you was finna do good on that hike.
Our flight was at like 1 p.m. the following day, so at least we didn't have to worry about getting up really early. We got back to the Airbnb late again. I'd say between 1 and 2 a.m. this time. Matt insisted on letting me sleep in the bed that night, just because it was fair. Honestly, I didn't argue. I eventually took my bag to his room and then said goodnight and shut the door. I didn't lock it. Not that it mattered.
Locking the door every time. That's your first mistake. You fucking up, gang.
Because the locks, from what I remembered, had those doorknobs with locks that you could easily unlock with like a butter knife or something. I wish I could say the story ended there and that we went home in peace the next day. Well, I woke up that night, probably not long after I fell asleep. I didn't know what woke me up at first. It's like waking up to a sound, but you didn't fully consciously hear that sound because you were still technically asleep when it caused you to wake up. I looked around the room, and then for my phone. My phone was missing. I had it plugged in next to the bed, and had the phone on the bed next to me. But now the cord was just dangling from the outlet to the ground with no phone. How could this happen again? I looked on one side of the bed on the floor, and then the other, and I jumped up and screamed at the top of my lungs when I saw Matt laying face down, sprawled out on that side of the bed on the floor. He looked up, looking like he'd just woken up from a deep sleep. I shouted, "What are you doing?" He looked around the room, acting confused.
Fuck you mean, what he doing, boy? The feet of thunder will be stomping that nigga out, gang. I ain't gonna lie. Fuck is you doing in the room, gang? First of all, and I know you got my phone, gang. Fuck is you doing with my phone, bro? Second of all, I ain't know, yeah.
Like he didn't know how he got there. He stood up and said that he must have been so blacked out that he just walked in here to go to bed, but then remembered I was in the bed and he crashed on the floor. But that didn't make sense because he was on the side of the bed further from the door. I then accused him of taking my phone, and he played dumb. He said I should check under the bed, maybe it fell. Then he got on his knees, looked under the bed, and instantly said, "Bro, here it is," and he pulled it out from under the bed. I looked at him, and I genuinely felt like I was staring at a different person now. Who was this guy? Did he really try getting into my phone twice? I told him I'll just go back
Nigga.
back to the couch, but he insisted he would, and then he left the room. You bet your ass I locked the door this time. If it weren't for the
Thank you for
phone,
the likes,
sure,
I
I'd
just
just see
seen
it
that.
as he was really drunk and did something goofy, like come pass out on the floor, but I was detecting bullshit there. He took my phone, and I know it. Since I was still kind of drunk, I didn't really have much trouble falling back asleep. Once again, I wish it ended there.
Imagine being able to build anything. For any
I'm going
reason,
back to YouTube
in any
Premium
style,
tomorrow.
at any scale.
But it didn't. I woke up one more time that night, and this time, I quickly realized why. At the foot of my bed was Matt standing there, but all I could really see was his silhouette.
That's why your ass need a, you know what I'm saying? You get that, and I let a couple off right there. Fuck you talking about, but you ain't like twice. You in my room? Nah.
For some reason, I didn't jump or scream this time. He sat down on the bed and started rubbing my foot, and that's when I screamed at him to get out. He wouldn't move, so I had to physically push him off the bed and out the bedroom door.
Fuck
I
pushing,
started
nigga. We
packing
finna
my
scrap,
clothes into my
nigga.
bag.
We finna scrap right here. Right now. No cap.
Then quickly packed all my toiletries and whatever else I packed. He didn't say a word. He sat upright on the couch watching me like a creepy NPC the entire time. It was the most unsettling part. I called an Uber to the airport. I wasn't staying there another minute. He didn't try to stop me. I got to the airport just as the sun was starting to rise, and as hard as I tried to sleep, I couldn't. My mind was just racing. I waited there the entire time for the flight. I paid like $35 to change my seat so I wouldn't be next to Matt. I looked out the window the entire time the plane was boarding so I wouldn't have to make eye contact with him. I didn't tell any of my friends until later that day. I just needed time to process and digest everything. A couple of my friends said, "See, I told you he was weird," and pointed out that both times we ran
It's like I said, red flags from the beginning too, gang. Intuition don't lie.
into him, he was alone. It got me also thinking that the only reason he ran into me at the outdoor bar was because he saw my Instagram story and probably came there. Actual stalker behavior. I blocked his number and Instagram, but before doing so, I went to one of his older Instagram posts where he was with friends. No one was tagged in the picture, but I looked at the comments, and there was one comment from a guy who looked like he was in the picture. I saw that Matt wasn't even following him or vice versa. I took it upon myself to DM the guy, asking if he was still friends with Matt. The guy responded back within 10 minutes, saying this: "Nah, guy's a freak, run away." From there, he told me about his own experience along with the other guys who used to be friends with him, who all had to cut him off. The guy untagged himself for Matt's photo, but he said he can't forcibly get him to take down the picture. He wasn't surprised at all when I told him what had happened in Arizona, and the guy's response was, "Guy should be in jail." It's crazy that I thought Matt was just a normal dude who was looking for a bro, but he ended up being a potentially dangerous predator.
Nah, that nigga was looking for a hoe. But nigga, that nigga was rubbing your feet while you was asleep. Nigga, hell nah.
I still just want to know what he was trying to access on my phone. This happened last summer, around mid-July. I was home from college for a few weeks, and I was just trying to enjoy the break before my next semester started. My name's Kyle, and I live in Maryland. I had been talking with my two closest friends, Jason and Marcus, about doing something together. Just the three of us, like we used to back in high school. We all go to different colleges now, so it's rare that we get time like this. We ended up planning a weekend beach trip to Ocean City. Jason's family owns a small beach house there that they don't use much, and he got permission for us to stay there for a few days. It was nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom place a couple blocks off the sand, but it was perfect for what we needed. Just time to relax, party a bit, and catch up. We drove down on a Friday afternoon. The weather was hot, upper 80s, with that heavy humid air that sticks to your skin. It smelled like sunscreen and salt water the second we got into town. We spent the day walking the boardwalk, messing around in some of the arcades, and people watching. The beach was packed with tourists, kids running around with beach balls, families with umbrellas and coolers, and lifeguards constantly yelling at people to move out of the restricted areas. Everything felt normal. It was just a fun summer day. Later, we went back to the house, grilled burgers, had a few drinks, and started playing drinking games. By midnight, we were drunk and bored, and someone, maybe Marcus, suggested we go back to the beach. There's something weirdly appealing about being near the ocean at night. The beach is almost completely empty, the air cools down, and there's just something peaceful about it. We didn't bring much with us, just some hoodies in case we get cold, our phones, and a flashlight Jason grabbed from the kitchen drawer. We didn't plan to swim around or anything, just hang out and maybe walk along the shore. We headed down a side street and onto the wooden boardwalk, then took the steps down to the sand. As expected, it was basically completely deserted. The waves were steady, and the only light came from a few lamps on the boardwalk and the moon behind some clouds. There was barely enough visibility to make out where the water met the shore. We walked along the edge of the surf, occasionally letting the cold water hit our ankles. We joked around, talked about random stuff, and just killed time. After a while, we stopped near one of the lifeguard towers, those wooden ones they take down at night, and we just laid in the sand looking up at the sky. That's when Jason noticed something. He suddenly sat up and said, "Is that someone walking over there?" We all sat up and looked in the direction he was pointing. At first, I didn't see anything. It just looked like a dark blur near the shoreline. But then, yeah, I saw it.
I dare you to let me build you a completely free e-commerce store.
Shut the fuck up.
A figure. But it was just a silhouette at that point, walking slowly, right along the edge of where the water touched the sand, probably 50 or 60 yards away. We figured it was just another person out late like us, maybe just going for a walk. But then we noticed that their movement was off. They weren't strolling around like someone enjoying the beach. Their walk was stiff, slow, and almost mechanical. Their arms didn't swing naturally, and their posture was strange. Their head was tilted down, but not fully. It looked like they were staring at the sand, or maybe scanning it. We all stopped talking and just quietly watched them. Something about it put me on edge. I remember whispering, "What the hell are they doing?" Marcus suggested that maybe they're just looking for something. Jason joked that it was probably some drunk tourist who dropped their keys. We kinda laughed it off and went back to messing around, but I kept glancing at the person. A few minutes passed, and I noticed they had stopped moving. They weren't walking anymore. They were standing completely still now.
It's because they're probably looking at you. I'm not gonna lie. Watch. The next word is gonna be, "Cause he's looking at us."
And they were definitely closer, maybe 30 yards away. That's when I started feeling uncomfortable. We tried not to stare or shine our light at them, but it was getting hard to ignore. There was just something off about the entire thing.
Don't you think?
Marcus finally said, "They've been standing there for like 5 minutes. Who just stands like that?" Then Jason said something that made my stomach drop.
Watch. He's looking at us.
He said, "He's not just standing, he's looking at you, Kyle." I didn't know if he was joking or not.
Give me my fucking money. Give me my fucking money. Give me my fucking money. I told y'all.
Kind of laughed nervously and said, "Nah, he's looking at the sand." But Jason shook his head and said, "No, look closer. His head's tilted at you." That's when Jason pointed the flashlight at him. I didn't even want him to do that, honestly, but he clicked it on and aimed the beam. The light hit the figure for just a second before the battery started dying and it flickered out. But that second was enough. I saw him. He was almost grayish white with no shirt. He was wearing wet jeans, clearly from the ocean. His arms hung completely limp at his sides. His head was tilted at a weird angle. Not broken, but unnatural. And his eyes were wide open, almost bulging. The second that beam of light hit him, he moved, fast. Without any hesitation, he broke into a full sprint straight at us.
See, and this is why you need that pew pew. You know what I'm saying? That pew pew will go. I need to explain more. You know what I'm saying?
I can't even describe how unnatural it looked. There was no buildup. He went from standing completely still to running at full speed, almost like he launched forward. All three of us screamed and bolted. We didn't even look back, we just ran. I could hear Marcus behind me, yelling, "Go!"
Listen, I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? If they ain't got that pew pew on me, nigga, I'm gonna be the first nigga gone. Y'all not catching me, you not seeing me. Fucking me, and this nigga went from 0 to 100 like that. No, I'm gone, gang. I'm gone. No cap. I finna see why they call me the fastest nigga in school, gang. No cap.
As our feet pounded into the sand, my lungs were burning. We ran all the way back to the steps leading up to the boardwalk and didn't stop until we got to the street. Only then did we turn around. But he wasn't there. The beach was empty. There were no footprints behind us, just the sound of waves. We stood there frozen, trying to make sense of it. We didn't talk much on the walk back to the house. When we got inside, we locked all the doors and windows, pulled the blinds shut, and stayed up until the sun came up. None of us could sleep. I kept expecting to hear knocking or see that pale face outside the window, but thankfully it never came. The next morning, we tried to laugh it off again, say it was probably just some cracked out homeless guy trying to scare people, but deep down, none of us believed that. The way he moved, the way he appeared out of nowhere, the lack of footprints, it made no sense. We stayed one more night, but we didn't leave the house.
Shit, don't even make sense. I'm out of there. Fuck is you talking about, gang? No cap.
We left early the next morning. Over the next few weeks, we tried to move on, but then Jason texted me one night. He said he'd been having dreams, the same dream over and over. He'd wake up and see the guy standing in the corner of his room, soaking wet, head tilted, just staring at him. No movement, no talking, just standing. I told him that was messed up, but I didn't tell him that I was having the exact same dream. Everything was the same, the guy, the posture, just standing in my room, not moving and not talking. Sometimes I wake up thinking I hear the sound of wet footsteps in my hallway. But when I check, no one's there. Then, last week, almost a year later, I was scrolling through this local Facebook group that posts about stuff going on in Ocean City. Someone uploaded a photo they'd taken the night before from the beach.
Oh,
It was grainy
hell
and dark,
no.
but I recognized what they were talking about. They said, "Does anyone know who this creepy guy is that I saw standing by the water at like 1 a.m.? I clicked the photo. It was blurry, but I recognized him instantly. Same posture, same pale skin. He was just looking down at the water. The comments chilled me even more. There were dozens of people saying they'd seen him too. Some said he was there for hours. One person said they watched him walk into the water and never came back out. Another said they found wet footprints on their back porch 2 streets from the beach. No prints leading to or from them. I don't know what we saw that night, but I know this.
So whatever y'all saw that night was nothing normal. I know that. I tell you that for sure. Fuck no.
I'll never go back to that beach at night again.
You
I
think?
am 1 year free of nicotine, and I have never felt better.
I don't
didn't
give a
know if I
damn,
would ever
bro.
be able to say that, but
I grew up in Massachusetts, and every summer since I could remember, I would spend the 3 months in a classic coastal New England town. You know the type if you've been in that area of the country. I had a big group of friends who always did the same thing, and we would get up to all kinds of shenanigans every day after our respective jobs. I was 19 years old when this happened, like most of my friends, and I had just gotten off of a dockboy job I had. So like any other night, I texted my friends what the plan was, and picked up my friend who I'll call Emerson from his job to go get alcohol, as he was the one with a fake ID. We got the alcohol and went back to the small town where we lived. We decided to get on my family's boat that I was able to take out on my own, to have some beers while we wait.
What? What? Both to take it on your own? Hey, I'm a changed man. But old me, I'd have had so many hugs on that motherfucker. What? In the middle of the night, let's go out to the lake. Yeah, come on, shorty. Bring all your homegirls. I'm bring all my, you feel me? And we finna get, yeah.
Wait for everyone else to finish what they were doing. We drove around the little peninsula we were on to this place where a lot of people anchor and hang out. There were a couple of boats anchored already, and it was about 7 p.m., but it still wasn't unusual. We found a spot between the two boats, threw the anchor down, and just chilled and drank. We were having a nice time, listening to the music from the boat to our left, when the one to our right decided to leave, and then eventually the other boat's music shut off. We thought they were going to leave as well, so Emerson and I, in our new drunken state, began to groan and yell to turn the music back on to keep the party going and a bunch of other stupid stuff like that, but it didn't happen. We were sitting on the bow and started to drink again before Emerson said, "Dude, look." I turned around to look at the boat and saw 3 people standing on the edge, just looking at us. My first reaction was to laugh.
Relocate. We get up out of here. Seen all I need to see. Alright, I get up with y'all.
Because I was drunk, and then I turned back around, but Emerson kept staring at them. Now, admittedly, I don't have a great sense of danger. I tend to be optimistic and lighthearted about most things, but Emerson was obviously uncomfortable. I told him not to worry about it. They were probably just trying to get a better look or something, but he kept looking with an uncomfortable look on his face, which I didn't get at the time. At this point, it's pretty dark, nothing illuminating the area but the lights from their boat, and therefore you couldn't really see who it was, just the silhouettes of these people. After a couple of minutes of trying to get Emerson to snap out of it, I turned back around and saw they were in the same position, staring at us. I thought it was a joke, so I got the megaphone from the compartment over the steering wheel and said, "20 to watch, fellas," which pissed Emerson off because he sensed something wasn't right. I was putting it back when I heard one of them laugh, audibly a man, but something was off about it. It sounded almost sinister. It was slow and low, and it was kind of raspy. It was at that point that I started to feel uncomfortable. Emerson got up and said, "Let's get the hell out of here, bro. This ain't right." But
Now y'all want to get up out of here? I've been to get up out of here about 5-10 minutes ago, okay? You know what I'm saying? This is why y'all gonna die first in the movie, in GTA.
responded that it was fine. Right after that, we heard 2 splashes in the water from their direction and saw that only one silhouette remained on the boat. That made Emerson
Let's go. I'm trying to see. Look, y'all
immediately
niggas
start
taking
pulling
too
the
long.
anchor up as I was laughing at the situation and at him, which, looking back now, was unbelievably stupid. He tried telling me to turn the engine on while I was laughing my ass off watching him pull the anchor up as I was trying to drink my beer. In fact, I was laughing so much that I didn't notice the sound of the 2 people swimming near our boat.
Yeah, this nigga's the dumbass. Kick his ass off the boat.
Emerson paused and looked at me with the anchor in his hands, which made me pause too. We couldn't see into the water, as it was dark and the lights were off with the boat. I called out hello and got nothing. Even the sound of the splashing water stopped. Right after that, I simultaneously heard Emerson yell, "Oh shit," and a sudden splash of water behind me before I turned and saw someone trying to climb onto the back of our boat. I freaked the fuck out, and while turning the key, I
Y'all
saw a hand
surprised?
grab the railing on the side of our boat near Emerson, who was yelling and holding the anchor up, ready to fight. I finally turned the boat on and instinctively
Man, if you don't smack that nigga with the motherfucking anchor, fuck off my boat, nigga. Fuck is wrong with you?
gunned it forward, smashing into the sandbar that was right in front of us. I put it in reverse and drove backwards as fast as possible until we were out of the little bay and back into more open water. I threw it back in neutral, and Emerson and I just looked at each other before he started giving me the "I told you so's" and "you're a dumbass." I fully
Rightfully
agreed
so.
and said we should go back, at which he agreed. In hindsight, we should have hightailed it back to the boat docks near my house, but for some reason, we decided to pick up everything that was thrown around during our escape. We didn't even finish before I noticed in the direction we just came from the lights of a boat approaching, and it was approaching fast. I said no fucking way.
That's why you need that pew pew, cause I had to send a couple pew pews that way. Let's see how fast you can go with a fucking sinking boat, nigga. Try me.
And jumped back to the steering wheel and pushed full throttle. Our boat is old, so it doesn't go super fast, and even though I was full speed ahead, they were gaining on us. Emerson started to lose it, saying things like, "Who are these guys? What do they want? Why can't they just let us chill on the water?" So I told him to chill out and focused on going straight to the docks. After about 5 minutes, the docks were in sight, but the boat behind us was so close that we could see the bow itself going up and down with the waves. I honestly didn't know what to do. I banged a hard left and got as close to the shore as I could without beaching, and miraculously, the other boat peeled off in the other direction. We breathed sighs of relief, but I still went full speed back to the docks. After docking and being relieved at the fact that there wasn't any damage to the boat, we met up with our friends after that and told them what had happened, and also came up with some theories, like maybe they wanted to rob us, or maybe they wanted to take the boat. We didn't recognize the boat, so they probably weren't from around here. I don't know. I don't like to think about what would have happened. I'm just glad we didn't find out. I do know that I'm thankful for Emerson being...
Hey, look. All this is really showing me that get you a pew pew and all this could be avoidable. Every story that I heard could have been avoidable with that. You know what I'm saying? Get that motherfucker. Let's see. We got time for one more. Yeah, we got time for one more. Let's see. Being watched.
This tool feels more like a collaborator than a plugin. Check this out. This
Man,
is
get the fuck
reimagining
off my
CodeProducer.
screen, bro. Like,
The apartment was clean, functional, I used to live in a small studio apartment in Chicago when I finished college. It was not fancy, just a single-room space on the top floor of a 3-story building. I chose it because rent was cheap and it was close to work, and as a 23-year-old with student loans and no savings, I didn't have the luxury of being picky. The apartment was clean, functional, and most importantly, mine. The only window in the place looked out over a narrow alley. Across the way was another apartment building, nearly identical to mine. The alley was tight, barely wide enough for a single car to squeeze through, and during the day it barely got any sunlight. At night it was pitch black. That never really bothered me much. I was working late nights at the time, bartending at a lounge on the north side. I usually got home around 2:30 or 3 in the morning, then I'd make a quick meal and zone out on my phone until I passed out. One night, about a month into living there, I noticed something odd. I had just walked in, kicked off my shoes, and turned on the overhead light when I thought I saw something move in the window across the alley. Just a flicker. A curtain twitching, maybe. I froze for a second, but when I looked again, there was nothing. The window was dark and still. I shrugged it off. Maybe I startled someone, or maybe it was just a draft. The next night, it happened again. As soon as I turned on the lights, I saw the curtain shift in that same window. This time I was sure I saw it.
hey man, no such thing as coincidences. Trust your gut. You know what I'm saying? Trust your gut.
A hand pulling the curtain back just slightly before letting it fall. I couldn't see the person behind it. The lights in the other apartment were off. It was just a sliver of movement in an otherwise black void. But the reason this really caught my attention was because I had never seen the lights on in that apartment. I always assumed that nobody had lived there. That night, I didn't sleep well. I kept thinking about that attic and the hand. Over the next week, I started paying closer attention. Every night without fail, the curtain would move within seconds of me turning on my lights. It was subtle but unmistakable. It was the same thing every time. There was a slow parting in the curtain. I had a glimpse of the dark space beyond it, and then the curtain would close again, I began testing it. Some nights I would leave my lights off and sit silently by the window. When I did, nothing happened. But the moment I turned them on, even just the dim light by my couch, the curtain across the alley would shift. Someone was watching me, it was obvious. I tried to rationalize it, like maybe someone just liked looking out their window at night, but that didn't explain the time.
And this is why motherfuckers, like, this is really why motherfuckers be dying, bro, cause in GTA, cause what you mean? It's not making sense, but I'm gonna let you go off.
Timing. It didn't explain the way it always coincided with my arrival. That was too big of a coincidence.
Thank
I
you.
asked my landlord about the unit across the alley, and he told me it was vacant and had been for months. I pressed him, asked if maybe someone had moved in recently, but he shook his head. He even joked that I was being paranoid. I considered calling the police, but ultimately didn't because I felt like reporting someone possibly looking at me through a window in an empty apartment sounded ridiculous. There was no crime or proof, just a feeling that grew worse every night. Then one night, everything escalated when I came home later than usual, around 4 a.m. The bar had hosted a private event and cleanup ran long, so I was exhausted and not thinking clearly. When I reached my door, I noticed something stuck in the frame. At first, I thought it was junk mail or a flyer, but when I pulled it free, I realized it was a crumpled note. It simply said, "Hey," written in pen. My legs went weak because the first thought I had was the apartment across the alley, so I ran to the window and looked across. The curtain was drawn and there was no movement. I called my friend Jamie, panicking. She lived across town but told me to come over right away. I grabbed a backpack, stuffed some essentials into it, and got out. The next day, I confronted the landlord again. This time, I demanded to see the apartment across the alley. He hesitated, but eventually agreed to meet there with the...
It's the landlord watching you. It's the landlord.
key. The place was dusty and completely empty, with not a single piece of furniture. The walls were bare, and the floor creaked with every step as if the place were 100 years old. But there, in the back room facing my window, was a single metal folding chair. It was positioned directly in front of the window, and they had access to an apartment that was supposed to be locked and empty. The police were called, and they searched the place. I'm pretty sure they took fingerprints, but nothing came of it. The fact that my paranoia was correct the entire time, and that I was in fact being watched, it made me sick, wondering how long the stretches of time that sicko would watch me would be. I moved out that week. To this day, I have no idea who was watching me, how...
Yeah, landlord. Come on. Who could have access? The nigga that just let you in to see the shit. Come on. Like, hey.
they got in, or how long it would have gone on if I hadn't found that note saying, "Hey." I've considered the possibility of it being the landlord, but ultimately I had to drop that theory because there's no way in hell he wouldn't have went over there to remove that chair before bringing me over there.
Now you just sound kind of dumb. Like, motherfuckers be stupid. Stupid.
I still dream about that window, and sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night certain that someone, somewhere, is still watching me.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation.
When I was 12, my family moved to a rural area in Oregon, miles from the nearest town. We lived on a large piece of land surrounded by dense pine forest. It was peaceful, quiet, and completely isolating. The house itself was built in the 1940s. It had the old house starter pack with things like creaky floors, a creepy attic, and a detached rundown shed that sat about 30 feet from the back door. The shed was packed with old tools and junk from the previous owner. My dad always meant to clean it out, but he never did. For the most part, we stayed away from it. I remember the first time I noticed something strange. It was a weeknight, close to midnight. I was up reading with the flashlight under the covers when I heard our dog, Max, barking uncontrollably. Max was a golden retriever, super friendly but alert. When he barked like that, it meant something was wrong. I crept out of bed and peeked out the window. He was facing the shed, barking into the darkness. The motion sensor light by the back door was on, casting long shadows across the lawn. I couldn't see anyone, but Max wouldn't stop. I didn't go out
Trust your
there. I
dog.
just watched for a bit until he calmed down,
trust your
and I walked
dog.
away. The next morning, we found deep boot prints in the dirt between the house and the shed. My dad dismissed it, saying it was probably a neighbor or a drifter passing through, but I couldn't stop thinking.
Yeah, like, shit just finna irritate me. Like, what you mean you finna just brush that off? You see fat ass blueprints in your, bro. That's why you couldn't put me in no scary movie game, cause I'm not finna die to this bullshit. Fuck.
Thinking about it. Over the next few weeks, Max barked at that shed multiple times. Every time, we'd look outside and find nothing, but the footprints would be back, and they always led to the shed, never away from it. One night around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of footsteps on the gravel outside my window. I froze.
Grab the
Footsteps
pew pew.
stopped, then resumed, moving toward the shed. I peeked through the blinds, and the light by the back door flicked on, and for just a second, I saw him. A tall man standing beside the shed door. He was wearing what looked like a dirty gray coat. His face was obscured by shadows, and then the light went out. My heart pounded in my chest as I backed away from the window. I
Telling you,
woke
bro.
my parents.
Grab that pew
My
pew.
dad
and
grabbed
get
his
to work,
rifle and went
see?
outside,
Get
but
to
the man was
work.
gone. The footprints were fresh, though, right up to the shed. This time, my dad decided to check inside. He unlocked the padlock and pulled the doors open, but all there was were just rusty tools and old tarps. He added a new lock and reinforced the doors. For a while, things were quiet. Then, a month later, Max went missing. We searched out.
Not the dog. This nigga got the dog. Y'all need to kill that nigga in GTA. In GTA, you know what I'm saying? Do that nigga nasty.
Everywhere, through the woods, up and down the road, even asked neighbors. He was gone. I was completely heartbroken. I held out hope that he'd return, and he just got lost in the woods. That night,
He got
I
that
couldn't sleep
motherfucker.
at all.
He
I
got
kept
that
thinking about the
motherfucker.
shed and Max. About the man I'd seen.
They gonna find Max in the shed. Dead. In GTA. I'm calling it now. Watch, bro. Watch. That nigga's a sick individual in the head, I can tell.
Around 3 a.m., I heard the back door creak. I got out of bed and tiptoed into the hallway. My dad was already up, holding his rifle. We moved to the back door, just in time to see the motion light flicker on. There, standing by the shed, was the man again. Only this time, he was holding something. In one hand, a knife. In the other, Max's collar. When I saw this,
I told you he's a sick individual in the head. Who does that type of shit? Hey, shoot that nigga in GTA right now. Got the pew pew. Do what you gotta do.
I felt like my life was half sucked out of my body, like this horrible weightlessness in which I almost felt like I was gonna fall down. My dad shouted and raised the rifle, but the man turned and ran into the woods. We called the police.
Shot
And they
that nigga in
searched
the
the
back.
area, but found no trace of him.
In GTA.
What they did find inside the shed made me sick. The floor had been cleared. In the dirt, someone had carved symbols, crude, disturbing images. In the corner was a pile of bones, animal bones, hopefully. It got worse. Behind a false panel in the shed wall, the officers found a backpack filled with items that weren't ours. Wallets, watches, and a few pieces of worn clothing. Things that must have belonged to someone. Multiple someones. The strangest thing was a notebook. Pages and pages of strange symbols,
that motherfucker
incoherent
was
rambling,
indeed-
and jagged handwriting, and crude drawings of houses, families, and eyes. I believe that this was some kind of message to us, saying he was watching us like he's watched other families. The police took all the items that were found. That night, while packing to leave, I looked out my window one last time to the shed. The police tape fluttered in the breeze, and all was quiet, but just beyond it, maybe 10 feet into the tree line, I saw a person's face, but the moment I blinked, it was gone. I screamed my dad's name in a desperate panic, yelling, "He's back!" My dad stormed into the room and looked out the window, asking where he was. I pointed straight at the shed and saw he was to the left, right by the woods. He ran to grab his rifle again, and this time he ran outside and screamed like a maniac while firing around. You can't imagine the anger and frustration of having to be chased out of your own home by a crazy, dangerous person who likely killed your dog. My dad was letting his frustration out in that moment. I know my dad wanted to kill that man.
In GTA.
We moved out days later to a much less remote part of Oregon.
Awaken to a world of wonder in Final Fantasy XIV Online.
Get this shit off my screen.
In the summer of 2018, my friends and I, Abby, Marcus, his younger brother Tim, Tim's girlfriend Hannah, and me, planned a weekend trip in the Blue Ridge Mountains. We were all in our early 20s, fresh out of college, and eager to unplug from everything. We picked a spot far off the grid, deep into the national park, where the trees grew thick, the air smelled of pine and damp soil, and there was no cell signal for miles. The first night was normal. We hiked in with our gear, found a clearing by a lake with just enough space for 3 tents, started a fire, and cooked hot dogs and marshmallows. We told stories, drank, and stayed up late watching the stars. The silence of the forest was relaxing. It wasn't until the second night that things started to feel wrong. At around 11 p.m., we were still sitting around the fire laughing when Marcus suddenly stiffened and pointed towards the woods, asking if we saw that as well. We all looked, but nothing was there. He swore he saw movement, a figure ducking behind a tree maybe 30 or 40 yards away. Tim dismissed it as a deer, but then, 20 minutes later, we heard a stick snap in the same direction. This time it was loud. Abby was clearly spooked and said she wanted to go to bed. Everyone agreed to call.
You want to go to bed? You just heard some shit? Grab that pew-pew and get the action. Who's out there? The fuck you think I'm finna go to sleep? What happened? What happened in Minecraft? You can't even go to sleep when the enemy next to you. You think I'm finna go to sleep right now?
Call it a night. We doused the fire, zipped up the tents, and tried to sleep. That night, I woke up to something that still haunts me. Breathing from just outside, probably not even 10 feet from my head. At first, I thought I was still in a half-dream state, but it continued. I was with 4 other people, though. It could have maybe been one of them going outside to pee, but I didn't hear the sound of a stream, just the breathing. The breathing also almost sounded like an older person, someone who was short of breath from smoking too much. I reached for my flashlight, but didn't dare turn it on.
Rex?
The breathing moved from one side of the tent to the other, then it stopped. I waited without saying a word, because it was the only thing I could do. Since the breathing stopped rather suddenly, I felt a sense of relief that my original thought of it being one of my friends peeing was accurate. So eventually, I fell asleep. In the morning, I said nothing. Neither did Abby. But when we met up for breakfast, Marcus had a concerned look on his face, like he was antsy to tell us something. He said someone was outside our tent last night. Hannah nodded and said she heard it too, and noted that whoever it was walked around the tent more than once, and it could have been more than one person. I asked the entire group if anyone got up to pee last night, and that maybe that's what we heard. Tim responded that he did go pee, but that he thought he saw a figure crouched near the fire pit around 4 a.m. We searched the area.
Grab that pew-pew and get the... See, I don't like... That's what I'm saying, bro. You get your pew-pew, bro, and half these stories will be avoided. Avoided.
And we found footprints in the ground circling all 3 tents. But in a spot where the dirt was a little wetter, more like mud, one of the footprints was very clearly from a bare human foot, not shoes or boots. This made the whole thing even stranger. They led into the woods and vanished. We tried to joke about it, saying maybe it was a crazy hiker or prankster, but it didn't feel like a joke. That night, we stayed up later, talking nervously around a much bigger fire. We kept our flashlights close. Around 2 a.m.,
A
we
bigger
heard that
fire.
awful sound of the crunching of leaves in the distance.
Nigga, you
But
need
this time,
a bigger
there was
pew
a
pew.
voice. It was a low voice, too quiet to understand, but definitely human. Marcus snapped on his flashlight, and for a split second, we saw who it was. It was a man, fully naked, crouched behind one of the trees nearby. He scrambled back into the trees like an animal that just got exposed. All of us were completely shook. We were too scared to even break off to go into our tents. Staying out in the open with all 5 of us together just felt safer. Hannah suggested packing up and leaving, but Marcus and I said that was a horrible idea. Packing up camp this late and finding our way back to the car would not only be extremely difficult, but also extremely terrifying, worrying that that man was behind us, following us. That night was the worst night yet, and maybe one of the worst nights of my life. I didn't get a single second of sleep. I was wide awake, and perhaps that may have saved me or my belongings at the very least. However many hours had passed before I heard the distant sound of a stick snapping or a leaf crunching. I said out loud, "Please let it be a fucking deer," under my breath. A few moments of silence passed before a voice from out in the woods said, "I see you guys." It was not any of my friends. I didn't know if
Fuck
any
you
of
talk
my
about you
friends
see
were
us.
awake and
That's
also
why you
heard
need a
it,
motherfucking
but I
pew
heard
pew,
none of them
gang.
react. So I guess I was too scared to be the only one reacting. What happened next, I never would have expected though. I heard my tent shift ever so slightly, which caused me to shoot up and look at the tent zipper, and it started to slowly move down. I started to scream at the top of my lungs, causing my friends to also start screaming. Whoever was on the other side of my tent took off, I presume, but I can't know for sure. All I know is all of us yelled at each other to communicate through the tents. I zipped the zipper back up fully, and I didn't hear breathing or footsteps again that night. I didn't fall asleep. I watched as the morning sun slowly started lighting up the place. At dawn, we packed everything and left. On the hike back to the car, the tension didn't leave us. At the ranger station, we told them everything. The ranger listened carefully, then said they've had reports. A man, maybe more than one, living out there. Some said they steal things, and others said worse. I don't know what...
Look, chat. Hey man, I'm glad to see you back, Bob. You know what I'm saying? You ain't gotta apologize for nothing, none of that, bro. I'm glad to see you back good, back right. You know what I'm saying? But look, all that I've concluded from these 2 stories, like these 2 videos we watched tonight, chat. Get you that pew pew and keep that motherfucker on you. Cause all these stories could have been avoided with a simple boom, 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 boom. You feel me? Like it would have been that easy and that simple. But alright, chat. You know what I'm saying? Look, everybody that came, everybody that's here, I thank y'all for coming. I thank y'all for sliding to this scary stories. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? We back live tomorrow. You know we back at it tomorrow. I might do some more scary stories. You know we can do some more scary stories for real. This was entertaining. Um, my nigga Bob, I'm glad to see you back. You know what I'm saying? We back to it tomorrow. Feel free to come join. You know the vibes. Everybody on the over there, thank y'all for sliding through. We coming for the top. You know what I'm saying? All right, that's a bet. You know what I'm saying? We out.